let's go. This is 1981. This is a film called Escape from New York. And it's another John Carpenter film. I did John Carpenter yesterday, so I thought, well, let's carry on. A John Carpenter film set, well, it's basically set in the dark, which in turn set the scene for a lot of early, mid-80s aesthetic, which would turn up in things like Duran Duran's Wild Boys. The video of that, by the way, was supposed to be a demo reel for a full-length feature film based on a William Burroughs novel, The Wild Boys, but that film never happened. Anyway, that's Duran Duran's Wild Boys video. And also, When the Sun Came Up, Mad Max, that kind of same aesthetic, but with more light, because it's Australian. And there was a lot of dystopia in 1980s media fiction, let's put it that way. This futuristic film, was Escape from New York, was set in the future, 1997. Wait a minute, let me start again. Yeah, this film was set in the past, 1997. Hang on. Well, anyway, let's move on. It's a fairly simple film. By necessity, it's a simple but tension-filled plot. The characters are very well chosen and powerfully opposed, and the actors chosen include some surprising names. The lead character, Snake Plissken, is played by Kurt Russell. And we see him waving his large weapon around in most of the shots, or we see very tight close-up headshots of him. And that seems to work very well. Originally, the studio wanted the lead part to go to Chuck Norris, but Cameron fought for Russell because Kurt Russell, up to that point, was a family-friendly Disney actor. And he wanted to break away from that, and he hadn't done anything like a gritty action film. And, where am I? Lee Van Cleef also plays a very atmospheric part, almost effortlessly. He just does this. Ernest Borgnine, Donald Pleasance were big names at that time. Harry Dean Stanton would become a much bigger name later. The Duke of New York in this film is played by Isaac Hayes. Can you dig it? Yeah, right on. The film was extremely constrained by budget, but Carpenter and his team were very innovative and genius. They made a lot out of very little. For example, they built a miniature model of Manhattan and taped it over with reflective tape and shot it with ultraviolet light. James Cameron helped out on the matte paintings. That's why I accidentally said Cameron earlier on. James Cameron helped out on the matte paintings. He was one of the effects crew when he was young, so a very young James Cameron was involved in this. Nearly everything was shot in shadow in this film. Deep, dark, black areas, hiding a lot, probably quite usefully. Shadows are aided by gobos and cuckoos. Cuckoo is a short for a cucullurus flag. These are my favourite things in photography. They cast textures and patterns. They cast shadows across people's faces to enhance the mood and angst. Snake's eye patch was Kurt Russell's idea. It wasn't in the script. But yeah... by the way, Jamie Lee Curtis is the voice of the computer and also the narrator. She doesn't appear. You only hear her voice. They didn't shoot it in actual New York in America, as it was impractical and everything looked too neat and new there. They just couldn't do that, not with that small budget. However, just down the road in East St. Louis, a fire had destroyed most of the waterfront there some years before, and everything was desolate, partially destroyed buildings, empty streets as far as the eye could see, and they were allowed to shoot as much as they liked, but at night. Donald Pleasance wrote his own backstory to explain why he, the President of the United States, should have an English accent, and it had something to do with Margaret Thatcher and that America reverting back to being a British colony, but none of that got mentioned in the film. He just invented that to justify it to himself. The film was so influential that on the rest of the 80s, it just made a huge impact. It was a huge influence for William Gibson's Neuromancer novel in 1984, and it was also a massive influence on the Metal Gear Solid games. There's probably going to be a remake of Escape from New York. The screenplay is being written, well, that was in February 2019, so maybe it has been by now. Certainly it's an ongoing project, a remake of Escape from New York. Finally, the music of this film like a lot of John Carpenter films, was created by John Carpenter himself and Alan Howarth, who usually works with him on the sound. And this is an electronic score, but of course it's pre-MIDI, and so it uses a lot of manual sync of sequences and the Linn LM1 drum machine, which incidentally was the same drum machine that Human League used in Dare about the same time. There are some really groovy moments in this film in terms of soundtracking, especially the parts where Isaac Hayes, playing the Duke of New York, is driving past in his cars with a big glitter ball beside him in the driver's seat and two giant, great big crystal chandeliers on each wing of the vehicle. Very disco, very good. Escape from New York, 1981. Thank you very much. Goodbye.